Reports are giving serious speculation to Degale and Eubanks Jr. fighting pay-per-view on the 8th of December on ITV, or STV, depending on which country you're in. And I think this is a fantastic fight. I don't think it can fail to deliver. I can't imagine Eubanks Jr. feeling too phased about this fight either, which might sound strange. I imagine that Degale will be a fairly heavy favorite in the fight, but I think we need to consider the fact that when has James Degale been in an easy fight? I think you could throw James Degale in the ring with a 5-year-old and he would somehow come out with a black eye and broken jaw. And he's an incredibly gifted fighter. Like there is no doubt he has enormous natural talent. Whether or not he has the desire and the commitment to the sport, I don't know if he's ever had it actually. I mean, there's a reason why he was always nicknamed Junkie, but even kind of in the earlier portion of his professional career, he was well known for lounging on the ropes and taking rounds off, and stamina has always been James Degale's, stamina and maybe having too much balls are his largest kind of detractors. The Degale and George Groves fight was an interesting one. For anyone that hasn't seen it, I suggest you can have a look at it. I mean, it's not the most action-packed fight, but everyone thought and assumed that Degale would win the fight. And granted, George Groves had the advantage of having Adam Booth, who I could listen to Adam Booth talk all day, by the way. He's amazing. He has this this kind of philosopher's approach to the sport that I love. Very interesting man. He just did an interview with Kugan Cassius on IFL TV, and they actually spoke about this fight. But yeah, Groves had him in his corner, and he obviously devised the perfect game plan. And one of the rare times Groves has fought exclusively on his back foot without kind of being drawn into anything, and I think that was Groves probably at his best. Maybe not the most entertaining Groves fight ever, but he won. I mean, should he have went on to continue to box like that? I don't know if he would have ended up being as popular as he is now, because part of the draw to George Groves is the vulnerability, and he's got huge power in both hands, of course. But anyway, I digress. I think that on paper, Degale should win the fight, but I have a feeling that he might win the early rounds quite comfortably while he's lively and giving movement that Eubanks definitely suffers with. Eubanks has a proven habit now of anyone that offers him resistance and provides a moving target, he shells up and his punch count zeros, which in my opinion is Eubanks' largest and most advantageous attribute. His volume, and he just doesn't tire. He just can pump punches, power punches, round after round. But he needs the confidence and he needs a target that he can hit. The moment he starts to miss, I think he fears embarrassing himself and he clams up. We've seen it in his two big fights. It wasn't until Billy Joe Saunders started to slow down that he landed something and it gave him confidence. And I actually think that if you're looking for a blueprint of a likelihood to the James Degale fight, it will be the Billy Joe Saunders fight. Degale looking very fresh, fancy footwork, making Eubanks miss the early kind of portion, and it's really for Degale to lose, which I am going to go ahead and say I think that Eubanks Jr. stops James Degale. And it could be that Degale comes in and he works all 12 rounds and, Eubanks can't land a glove and I look like an idiot. But this one I think that I feel that Degale, I think he will underestimate Chris Eubanks Jr. I think he'll watch the Groves fight and think, well, Groves handled him, no problem, I can do the same thing. But Degale doesn't fight like Groves does. Degale likes to work on the inside, and he just gets hit in the face. And he's quite an elusive boxer. I don't really understand how he takes so much punishment. I really don't get it. I think he just maybe has a vulnerability. But I think Eubanks will come from behind the cards, probably a long way behind the cards, and knock Degale out. Probably with Degale sagging against the ropes, taking punishment that he just can't run away from anymore. I could see Degale winning every second of every round, and that kind of clear wins kind of beginning to tail off towards the kind of middle to kind of championship rounds, and you'll see Eubanks gaining confidence and just letting his hands go, and probably busting up Degale's face, maybe hitting him to the body, I don't know. I wouldn't rule out Degale knocking out Eubanks Jr., but I think he has trouble with his hands. I don't think he can commit to punches the way he could before. So for me, I think that Eubanks Jr. by late KO is the most likely. And when I say the most likely, I mean maybe 60% of me kind of thinks that could happen. I guess, on paper, Degale by points is the most obvious line to take. But I just feel that given the accumulation of damage James Degale has taken, he's been in so many punishing fights. I think Degale actually does a bit better against boxers, if I'm honest. I mean, we have seen Degale blast out brawlers before. Again, it's not impossible. You could see him hitting Eubanks to the body in Eubanks, because Eubanks looked a little bit tentative, albeit briefly, against O'Sullivan. When O'Sullivan landed on Eubanks, Eubanks was like, "Whoa, I'm not used to the one being hit here. I'm the one that's meant to be kind of dishing out power punches." I think any damage that Eubanks takes makes him tentative. And I think if that damage, although Groves, for example, maybe didn't hit in the same fashion as O'Sullivan, I think the fact he was able to reach and touch Eubanks consistently, he just clams up. Again, I guess if you've been blasting bags for the majority of your career, bags don't punch back. So when you are receiving fire back, you're like, whoa, this is uncomfortable. And your first instinct is to cover up, and to lower your volume, and lower your opponent's opportunity to hit you. And I also think there's the embarrassment factor for Eubanks. I think it's I've heard people say, I've seen him choke. I don't think he's choking. I think he's just second guessing himself. And I guess maybe they're the same thing, but he just doesn't want to be seen missing wildly. So he starts thinking too much. And the moment a puncher like Eubanks starts to think, I think it's the moment he starts to lose. Wilder has a very similar mental disposition, I think, that Eubanks Jr. does. The moment they start missing, they stop throwing. Or they throw far, far less. Eubanks, I think he's done this in both the Billy Joe Saunders fight and his George Groves fight. But we'll see. I think it's going to be a great fight. Again, Eubanks hasn't been in a bad fight, and neither is Degale. Or at least not in the last kind of 5-6 years of Degale's career. So I'm excited. I hope it goes ahead. I'll certainly be buying it. I'm terrible, honestly, as far as I should probably be supporting or advocating for, fights that are guaranteed pay-per-view status. I'm not entirely sure this is a guaranteed pay-per-view. I guess the numbers will tell us, but I'm going to buy it anyway because I love the sport, and I would happily, if DAZN came to the UK, I would subscribe in an instant. I don't think it ever will because of the relationship Eddie has with Sky Sports. I don't think that's very likely, but we'll see. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. Who do you think wins this? Does Degale outbox Eubanks all night and humiliate him and embarrass him? Does Eubanks come on strong late, put the beating on him, and the ref just waves it off with too much punishment? Does Degale get injured, broken jaw, bust eye, cut, and has to withdraw for one reason or another? I think there's a lot of interesting dynamics. Let me know your thoughts. I'll see you guys soon.